It is on Sunday, the 22nd of June, 2025. And today we are actually going to check into one of sad story that happened in Kenya in the year 2012. And today I am joined with the famous Mr. Nice from the Kung Fu Fanta show. Maybe I'll
Hello?
give you a minute to introduce yourself as we progress to speak about the case that is with us today.
Yes, so my name is Mr. Nice, the host of Kung Fu Fanta Reaction Channel, and I have done quite a few reaction collaborations with KLA in the past on my channel and some on his channel. And today we're going to get into something that took place 12 years ago, but the situation of what happened 12 years ago with one Agnes Wanjiru that you see on the thumbnail is something that is unresolved. And we're not sure exactly how that's going to be resolved, if it ever will be. But we want to talk about it today because people in Kenya and some people in Britain are still talking about it. KLA?
Yes, that's true. So it's a very sad story. This is a young mother who is actually from one particular place known as Nyanyuki. And in Nyanyuki, we have the famous Batuk training camp where the British and sometimes a little bit of American soldiers come in hand to practice in the landscape of that particular place known as Kenya of Nyanyuki. So we had an issue looking into this. I actually went into a lot of stress watching the whole news. I knew about the story. I had watched it up before, but it is actually breaking my heart that it is still another subsequent 12 to 13 years justice has not been served. And from what I saw, it's about the government's not going in line, or they're not ready to prosecute, or they're trying to overshadow the case so that this doesn't get the public bad eye. So, what are your opinions about this case? How do you feel about it?
Well, at this point, I just made sure that I went on to recent news about what's going on with Agnes Wanjiru, her case. And right now, I'm seeing some headlines that look promising. So I got one from the Times, which is in America. It says, "A long road to finding the truth on Agnes Wanjiru." The next one is from the Times as well. Agnes Wanjiru deleting, I'll just use that word instead. Soldier maybe, so that's a question mark, maybe extradited as 20 troops come forward. So it looks like 20 British troops are coming forward to talk about the case. What I remember about this, that there's one particular person that she was with, but there was a couple people involved, but one particular person that she was with, and the main person that I guess was probably the only person that put her body in a septic tank. And I'll get back to that later. Let me read a couple more titles from a couple other different news articles. Um, there's one from the 14th of October, 2024. So the first two that I read are from the Times that were within the last 24 hours. But last year, this is from Action and Armed Violence. This is an actual news. It's probably just for military. The cover up of Agnes Wanjiru's murder, a very British Army scandal. The next one's from the BBC, and this was actually 2 weeks ago. And the BBC said British Army in Kenya, soldiers sent home after arrest after grape allegation. Okay, grape allegation. We're not going to use the real word, grape allegation. And I'll just read one more. This was on the 7th of April, 2025, allafrica.com news. Kenya, UK Defense Secretary meets family of murdered Kenyan woman. And you can see that pretty much all over YouTube, where he did go visit the family in Nanyuki. So right now, there's a maybe that this person will be extradited to Kenya to face charges in Kenya. And let's see if that does happen. And if it does happen, this will be monumental in what could happen to a criminal in the military that commits a crime in Kenya and then leaves the country, no matter what the reason is, and being able under the law to come back under extradition. What say you?
Yeah, so for me, I think that will actually definitely happen because Kenya and the UK have a long partnership in terms of military training, and they wouldn't want that one incident to actually spoil the whole um, training. Because already right now, at the moment, there's also another video. I think you can. I will put it on the comment section. There's been agitation from the Kenyan society that why do we have foreigners who are not actually citizens of this country owning big lands of track and also doing such atrocities, because Agnes Wanjiru is not the isolated case. We have another case of also another young woman who actually went into a family way with a British soldier, and that young woman and today is no longer there with us, and the baby is here with us, and there's a lot of suffering, and people are wondering if she is half British, and half Kenyan citizen, why is she going all this? Why is the father or the person who put the young woman into family way not responsible for such actions? So with incognizant with the case of Agnes Wanjiru, so this is not actually an isolated case. It's just one of the many that have just actually even been shown or given a word of it to be to get it out there the news. So it's not actually, so there's a story Lingugi has been running, and it's not even about Lingugi. Before it reaches to Lingugi, in Nyanyuki itself, there is agitation to actually let the Batuk training camp being closed. There is agitation for people asking that camp needs to be closed. So I believe the gentleman that who did the atrocities is actually going to be persecuted for that actually act, and he might be very much extradited. And from the information that I got is that there is some green light on the case. Yeah.
Yes, and for those who don't know what Batuk is an acronym for British Army Training Unit Kenya, and it's in Nanyuki. And actually, last night I was checking out a British YouTube channel that had a report about the base and how life is on the base and what they do in the community. And this is outside British soldiers getting some relief time and going out and partying and stuff like that. And it is a very modern facility. I mean, it looks like something that you would see in America as far as the tarmac and cement roadways, everything inside. It's like a city within a city type of thing. And we have American bases around the world that look pretty much exactly like it. So, also, I want to just say is that not all the soldiers are into this. These are the ones that go out that we're talking about that go out and look to cause trouble in one form or another. And I do have personal experience in this town of Nanyuki with British soldiers. Um, basically, when I was with my wife, we're coming out of grocery, and there's a one incident in particular. I remember these guys were gawking at my wife until I looked at them, and then they started looking at me with respect. So I know the situation. I see how they act towards women in that town. They pretty much think they have a right to get any woman that they want to, no matter what. Have been instances in the town of Nanyuki where British soldiers have started conflict with the men in Nanyuki and beat up some of the men, and then some of the men in Nanyuki, you know, retaliated and beat up British soldiers. So it's been a back and forth where the soldiers at different times had to make sure that there was rules set in place, special conditions to where they cannot leave the base during their off time. They had to stay on the base. So that's been an on and off, going type of thing. The situation we are talking about here today, though, is that this is 12 years ago. And again, Batuk is British Army Training Unit Kenya. So I'm going to leave a video article on Citizen TV about, and this was like 5 months ago, about talking to the family of what's going on lately. And 5 months ago is lately. So I will be bringing that up. People can click on it in the chat, and you'll be able to have that available to you. So that way you get more of a detailed situation. But we are going to get into some detail. We're going to give our opinions. Um, and I think I know what report you're talking about as far as Lin Ngugi talking with a gentleman about getting 5,000 acres for, his father got 5,000 acres, and I think it was his uncle or something got 5,000 acres way, way, way back in the day. So there is a situation where some people have gotten land in Kenya and from a long time ago. And apparently today, from that long time ago, they're not even paying taxes because they're not even considered um, Kenyan citizens. So if they're not Kenyan citizens, it's not on a fair playing field. And what say you, KLA?
Yeah. So with the incident about the land issue they've just mentioned. So we are Kenya was actually a colony of the British. So when the British came to Kenya, they found areas where people were actually not living. Maybe people had put them for religious practices, or people had let it for the land to recuperate. After living in that area, the grass will be depleting the forest. So people used to move. We will rather call it the Maasai land use. So people had a ways of living in with the environment. So this land that the British came and found that people are not there, they actually created a special title and gave it named it Crown Land. So Crown Land is actually crown of the Queen. So the land is actually owned by the Queen. And actually, the 5 acres you're talking about, the 5,000 acres you're talking about, it falls under that Crown Land. So in the day-to-day modern Kenya, that we have a new constitution of the 2010, and still we have land that is actually outside or just believed not to be part of Kenya. Like that land in retrospective, it belongs to the Britain. It belongs to British government. So and now it means the government of Kenya cannot actually put levies or taxes on that land, and the ownership of that land changes hand from one one person to another without even the involvement of the government. So the government has no knowings of or dealings of what is happening in that particular land. And Batuk, to that extension, I don't know if you knew this, but Batuk, into that extension, has gone into this particular land to seek ground for training. So most of these places have been actually, since the people who own the land, the practices that the businesses that in this that type of land is that they have changed the land to conservancies, and on the conservancies they also have given the Batuk land for training. So the citizens of that area do not have access to land for grazing or doing a farming or agriculture. So the Batuk has been given this land, and the Batuk actually has even gone. It's documented in other people's channels, and TV stations have mentioned about this, that they have gone ahead and even unalived wild animals. And in Kenya, they are protected by the KWS, the Kenya Wildlife Services. But now, in that aspect also, just as Agnes Wanjiru's case, it seems to be they are not protected if a British person does an atrocities towards the land, the people, or the wild animals of that particular place, which is far from if a Kenyan soldier was doing that in Britain. So that was a big question. So I don't know if you knew about the story about the land issue, because the land issue is what is bringing the poverty in the region of Nyanyuki.
Yes, I've heard some things about it, but not in great detail.
Yeah.
So what I want to do, everybody, is I want to read a four-part article in Wikipedia. So this will catch you up to speed on Agnes Wanjiru and what happened to her. So I'm going to read the article, the history, 2021 WhatsApp leaks, and 2023 inquiry. So this way everybody will know, and the video that I'm going to be posting after this in the chat will basically clue you into everything. So Here we go with the article on Wikipedia. The murder of Agnes Wanjiru was carried out in the town of Nanyuki, Kenya in 2012. Wanjiru's body was discovered in the septic tank of the Lions Court Hotel in Nanyuki 2 months after she disappeared. Wanjiru entered the hotel with British soldiers of the Duke of Lancaster's regiment. The murder was widely covered in the British press after the contents of a WhatsApp group chat involving soldiers of the Duke of Lancaster's regiment were leaked to the press, showing some of the soldiers accused of murdering Wanjiru mocking her death with memes related to murder, hotels, and septic tanks. Okay, the history of this is in 2012, a Kenyan mother, and yes, she was a mother, a Kenyan mother aged 21 called Agnes Wanjiru was alleged murdered by soldiers of the Duke of Lancaster's regiment. With the murder reportedly covered up by British Army officials, 2 months after she accompanied British soldiers into the Lions Court Hotel bar in Nanyuki, her naked corpse was found in a septic tank next to the room in which the soldiers of the Duke of Lancaster had stayed. Many British newspapers reported Agnes Wanjiru to be a prostitute, claims which have been disputed by her surviving family. Due to the advanced decay of her corpse, the postmortem examination was unable to confirm whether or not she had been sexually assaulted prior to her death. Some British newspapers reported that the soldier of the regiment confessed to being involved in the killing, but was told to shut up when he attempted to report it. One of the soldiers within the regiment accused a fellow soldier of being party to the murder. Despite a Kenyan inquest finding that she had been unlawfully killed, and the judge presided finding the British soldiers had murdered her, no soldiers have been charged or convicted for the killing. Defense Secretary Ben Wallace denied that the British military had covered up Wanjiru's murder, but admitted guilt to and expressed concern over the army heresy, turning a blind eye to the use of prostitutes by personnel, especially within countries in poverty. In 2022, UK armed forces introduced a ban on the use of sex workers abroad for the first time. Personnel found to have engaged in what the Ministry of Defense describes as transactional sex faced the prospect of dismissal, and they could also be prosecuted in the countries where prostitution is illegal. Esther Njoki, Wanjiru's niece, called on King Charles III to bring about justice for Wanjiru by bringing attention and urgency to her case. She wrote a letter to the king asking him to visit her family and requested measures from the British Crown Forces Commander-in-Chief. Okay, so the 2021 WhatsApp leaks. So these are the conversations of soldiers within the WhatsApp from what I've been reading, and this is what it says. In 2021, screenshots of a private Facebook group chat allegedly run by soldiers of the Duke of Lancaster's regiment was published across British newspapers. The screenshots reportedly showed the regiment's soldiers joking and laughing at memes mocking the murder of Agnes Wanjiru. Soldiers of the regiment posted photographs of the outside of the hotel where Wanjiru was murdered with the captain, "If you know, you know," followed by laughing emojis. Other comments apparently mocking Agnes Wanjiru's murder include one soldier who commented "septic tank" in quotes, with ghost emojis and various jokes about sore throats. The same soldier who allegedly murdered Agnes Wanjiru posted, "Come to think of it, I have had a sore throat today," in quotes. Okay, the leaking of the secret chats apparently mocking the murder sparked by reinvestigation into the case by Kenyan police. So Kenyan police have been on this. Okay, the 2023 inquiry. In 2023, a wide-ranging inquiry into claims of abuse by British Army was launched. In April of 2025, the UK Defense Secretary, John Healey MP, met family members of the late Agnes Wanjiru, expressing his condolences and offering the continued support of the UK government to the Kenyan inquiry investigators. So that is from um, Wikipedia. I'll also put that link in the chat as well. KLA, go ahead.
Actually, it's very sad to hear that there is actually people who went ahead and even talked about it, made fun about the killing, the unaliving of the young woman from Nyanyuki, and even actually were going ahead to post it on Facebook. So actually, that was really sad, and I just long for the time when justice will be served for the family of just Agnes Wanjiru.
Indeed, indeed. And the other thing too is which I find very ironic is like I knew about this case, right? Otto 718, thank you for coming in. I knew about this case from a long time back. I did ask my wife if she happened to know the family because Nanyuki is not really that big. There are a lot of people, but it's really not that big of a town. And she didn't actually know that family, but she's known about this situation just like everybody else in that town and pretty much all across Kenya and in the diaspora with Kenyans. The thing is that the Lions Court Lodge, which I didn't know about because I didn't know many details. I just knew the basic facts of what happened. What I didn't know is that this took place in that hotel, which is the same hotel where me and my wife had our wedding reception 6 years prior to what happened to Agnes Wanjiru. And I find it very sad because the staff and the place is very beautiful. And I find it that, it does have a bar and everything. Me and my wife have been to that bar one night with her brother and one of her friends, and we all just had a good time. It's not my type of environment. We never went again, but we just went there to basically listen to music and dance with other people and stuff like that. The thing is that I remember the staff manager at the time. He's probably not the staff manager now. His name was Alex that helped put on our reception. And the grounds, like I said, were very beautiful. They were like cottages that were like African huts, kind of shaped on the outside, modern inside, stuff like that. And it was just a serene place to be. It had a nice garden place where you can sit down if you wanted to have a picnic or whatever. It was great. Kids could play. And there are kids there. There are people that bring their kids there. There are families that are there. But there are also times when the soldiers are there. They're not there all year round, from what I gather. Sometimes the Italian soldiers will use that base, and sometimes other soldiers from other countries will use that base for training. The thing is that when the soldiers are there, they'll use hotels like that in other places that are very popular to them. And because it has a bar and it's like a club at night, that's going to be one of the hot spots. And again, when me and my wife went there for that night, it wasn't a time when the British soldiers were there. And I would say that was probably, like 5 years before the murder took place. It still wasn't an atmosphere that if I would have really known, because I found a lot of people there that were from other countries, expats, have you, whatever, that were just very loud and obviously were there to take advantage of women, take advantage of the prostitution or whatever. That's what they were there for. Not everybody. Most of the people there were Kenyans, both men and women. But I found that the loudest people that were there were people from other countries, and they were the most drunk, and they were the ones mostly showing off or what have you. So it wasn't something that I was keen to. Another thing that happened there, man, it's we have experiences in life, right? There was one young Kenyan man. He's probably 22, and I guess he didn't know the woman that was with me was my wife, and my wife was dancing with a friend. Is that he tried to offer me his friend, and she was probably about 22, and she was dancing on the other side of him while he was sitting down next to me. And so that type of atmosphere is not my type of atmosphere. So for him to do that, he probably thought I was a British soldier. He probably thought I was some other foreigner that's what I was there for. And so that is not the type of place that I want to hang out in. But other than that, I found it very disgraceful, no matter where it is. But what really picked me up on we should definitely talk about this. Yes, it may sound selfish, is that this is the same place that me and my wife had our reception. And it's just down the road from where she grew up like 3 years of her life. Like where we were living in Nanyuki was in a different location, but just down the road, like I would say maybe 10 minutes, is a place where she lived with the family, her and her brothers, for 3 years. And I find it just I don't know, it hits a little too close for me that this would take place. And then we have a young woman who now her daughter is 12 years old and is wondering why the soldier or these soldiers had taken her mother's life. And it's really sad. And it's something that should be talked about until this case is closed. And it still should be talked about based on the fact that if you come to Kenya, that, if this guy gets prosecuted, which I hope he does, that you cannot get away with this just because you're in a foreign military. KLA?
Yeah, actually, you speak about the deterioration of the culture and the morals of that particular area, and that is why I am always passionate about these topics because I think somebody needs to be saying something about when things are going actually wrong. Because this is just not an isolated case, but it's just a tip of the iceberg of what is happening. I believe there is a lot of atrocities happening in that village, or that particular town, or that particular region, and people don't speak about it, or maybe the platform to actually share it out is not there, and we've been concentrating too much on the bigger towns, and we actually don't go into looking into what is happening in as far as places like Nyanyuki. And people don't know, if you're a Kenyan, or you don't if you're not a Kenyan, this is where the white rhino, the last habitat of the white rhino. So apparently, they say the white rhino is extinct, but I don't know. There is other information that is not true. But okay, according to what was published or what has been said, that is the last home of the white rhino. So people have not been putting into consideration into this. And actually, as you mentioned about the white gentleman who came to approach you thinking you're a British citizen, that shows you the audacity, that energy that he could even come to you and offer you. That shows you the that community has undergone a change of aspect of how they see stuff, how they do their own things, and it just begged me a question to like think about what is happening in that aspect. And you speaking about the daughter, that until today, she still wonder why the parent is not alive today with her, and why the person who did the atrocities to the mother is still out there running. Just speak about the trauma, because I believe that young woman now, because now she's also a young woman, she's actually undergoing a trauma that is quite not good. Because if it was solved, yes, we will go to therapy and we'll end it. But the constant thinking every day that my mom's justice has not been solved is also causing some trauma to the young gun. And this is somebody that we expect in the near future to be part and parcel of the growing economy. And I just want to put it out: if you're working in the government, why are you taking this long? Why are you seeing that there's somebody's? If this is just one case, we are talking about the case of Agnes Wanjiru, and now what it is coming up to, but you're taking long. You are not solving this matter. So we are raising a new adult in trauma. So, and this is somebody who ought to be uh, with a partner in the near future. And what are the possibilities of the person not pairing up well with the partner because of something that could have been resolved by the government? So I think there the government is not doing us justice. That we are actually seeing something happening and we're just letting it go. Uh, I hope the British side of the government will actually put a word into the what they're saying. They will actually make it, go ahead with this case, make sure that the justice is being found, and they will comply when the Kenyan government will ask for the soldier to be repatriated to Kenya, extradited, in that other words, to Kenya for to face the law in Kenya and be prosecuted in Kenya. And as you can see, the family is also in dire need of finances. So I think something I saw something like that, because going in Kenya about these cases is not something easy. It's very expensive affair. So I believe the government should step aside, maybe think about relieving all the bills that and the law and the court charges that are involved, so that the family could actually get justice. And I see a lot of people have come in. Thank you. I'm Lucy, Outer 17, is optimistic, and Mr. Nice has actually shared the information from Wikipedia, and you can go ahead and read. We will be posting more about the story, so that if you have time, you can click into the channels and go and watch the full story out there. So okay, out of 718, you said, do you still have the program where the soldiers stay in Kenya? Yes, it's still there. It's still active. The terms and conditions of how it's been it needs to be reviewed. I believe it needs to be reviewed. Otherwise, it might cause problem. And we do not want to have issues with Britain because of the mistakes that are happening there, which are not being solved, and there will be a citizen uprise. Yeah, because in Kenya, citizen uprise is constitutionally right for the Kenyans to seek for justice in whatever way. So when they say in whatever way, it could go the wrong way. So I believe they need to reconstitute or reevaluate the contract that they have with the Batuk in Kenya. So the program is still there. So yeah, yes, that place has been there since 1964 when it was established. That's true. Back to you, Mr. Nice.
Yes, and I like to share a recent article. It's from the Sunday Times, so I don't think this is not the New York Times, the Sunday Times. Now I can't read the whole article, and I'll also share this in the chat so people can go ahead and read it for themselves later. So the title is Agnes Wanjiru killing soldier may be extradited as 20 troops come forward. Detectives in Kenya hope a British serviceman accused of killing Wanjiru in 2012 will face the military extradition of its kind, the first military extradition of its kind, the first. So let's hope this happens. More than 20 British soldiers have given their accounts of the night 21-year-old Agnes Wanjiru was allegedly killed by a fellow serviceman in Kenya. Detectives in Kenya have recommended one charge of murder against a British soldier after compiling evidence from key witnesses who arrived on training exercises attached to a British Army base in Nanyuki in March of 2012. All right, that's all I can read. I'm going to go ahead and forward the actual article so everybody can read the rest of what I just started to read. And here's the thing, there's a couple friends that she was with. I don't have their names right in front of me, so excuse me for that. But there's a couple of friends that she had with her that went with her that night to the Lion Court Lodge Hotel, Lions Court. And they left without her. Okay? They left without her. Mind you that her daughter at the time was probably less than a year or just a year old, because her daughter's 12 years old now. So I'm thinking less than a year. Mind you, too, that she was there at that club that me and my wife have been to personally, right? And just a side note, when me and my wife had our reception, she has 11 uncles. Or I think it's 10 or 11 uncles. They all came to the wedding reception. And after our wedding reception was over, and most of them had to drive like an hour away to go back home, they decided to go to that bar because it was open during the day as well, not that crowded, to have a drink, to have a good time, to celebrate our wedding in their own special way. So what I'm saying here is that she went there, she met up with a soldier. She's not a prostitute. However, she could have been there just to have it simply a good time, because there are women in Nanyuki that just do that. And then she could have been there looking for somebody from another country that maybe that she'll get lucky enough to be a wife or a girlfriend. We don't know. The thing is that she was not a prostitute. Another thing that you need to know is that some women that, and I'm saying some, not all, some women who are looking for foreigners are in competition with prostitutes. So they're not prostitutes themselves. They're in competition because the prostitutes want the money, obviously. The women that are in competition with them are desperate enough to actually try to find somebody from another country to try to make their life better. And then there are other women who are not in competition with anybody, that if they find love, they find love. And whether they stay in Kenya or go abroad, that's what it is. That's the reality of it. So I wanted to make that distinction. She was not a prostitute, and we don't know if she was one of the other two that I had mentioned. Okay. The fact is, even if she was a prostitute, which she was not, no British soldier or anybody had the right, based on what she's doing, had the right to take her life. That is uncalled for under any circumstances. There was no reason for it. And I don't care if whatever reason, if that in that night, if that soldier was embarrassed somehow by her or whatever, or if he was drunk. The thing is that she didn't deserve that to happen to her, and her daughter most definitely didn't deserve that to happen to her mom, which now she's grown up without her mom. So her grandmother has become her mother. And that's unfortunate. Kayla?
Unfortunate that not what happened to her. Whatever the circumstances, truth
Your audio is breaking up.
by the Kenyan law. Oh, okay.
Go
I'm
ahead and just
saying
repeat.
not okay. That was not something that agreeable by law, or that is actually process is actually punishable by the Kenyan law, and he should, even if he is or is Kenyan or is from other, as long as the law of the country says so, and you're in that particular place and you're actually doing it towards a Kenyan, then the law is clear on what are the mandates or what are the integrities of how this prosecution will go ahead. So I don't know why it has taken long for the Kenyan government to prosecute or seek for the extradition of the British soldiers to come and answer the questions of what happened during that day or that night.
Well, I do know, listening to the family has been putting a lot of pressure on both the British and Kenyan government to get this solved, and has been reaching out, I guess, to just about every media out there. I'm not sure if any of the family has been interviewed by Lynn and Googie, but if they have not, I'm sure that interview will be up and coming.
Yeah.
So basically, the pressure that I know has been put on by the family for sure. And I can also imagine that there's probably been some other advocates out there. I'm talking about lawyers that have probably gone ahead and been pushing for this as well. So, and then other people just being activists have, in Kenya is a country of activists. Like, actually, it's more of a country of activists than America with its population size by far. The thing is, I believe there's been some people in Kenya that have also been advocating for the justice of Agnes Wanjiru. And we're not saying her name enough in this live stream. So Agnes Wanjiru has people fighting for her 12 years after her death. And that's a great thing because that shows that she's not been forgotten. And there are people out there that are determined outside of her family that she is not going to be forgotten. Kayla?
For sure, that is the truth. That in Kenya there will be some people who will be actually interested with what's happening on the case, and it's not only this, also with with the reforms, with victims of many victims of many crimes in Kenya. There are actually support bodies which are there. They actually do offer help and support, and I believe the family also to be having that kind of support because it's not easy. As I said before, dealing with the Kenyan law court system, I think the law is very clear, but the court system is a little bit slower on one side. I don't know what needs to be done for the court to be more effective, but I honestly believe that getting justice sometimes could be a little bit of a problem. And I don't think it's only Kenya. I think it's a lot of countries, but the government is working towards it, and I hope they will finish it quickly because there are many people actually suffering out there.
Right, exactly. You know, also I'd like to also give more account of what I've seen. Some people coming to Nanyuki, the way they behave towards women in public, and as early in the morning of like 10 a.m. I'm not joking. And this is a time when the British soldiers were not there. I remember one account where me and my wife were walking to the cyber cafe. And for those who don't know what a cyber cafe is, you know, in America, is that that's a place where you go to get on the internet because somebody locally don't have a computer or they don't have the internet capacity to have a computer to get on the internet. So we were going on our way to the cyber cafe, and I noticed two women walking together, two friends, and then a guy who I'm assuming who was British but not a soldier was looked like he was sweaty, looked like he was definitely dirty. He was dingy in his clothes, but he was there. And he was circling around one of the two, trying to convince her, trying to convince her to sleep with him and willing to pay her money. And both the women were looking down at the ground and just basically just walking, minding their own business. And I wanted to approach him, and my wife said, no, the women have it handled. This is what goes on all the time. This is what a lot of these men come here to do. My wife has even told me that years ago that there was a British guy that approached her. Doubt that he was a soldier, but he was an older guy. Half of his teeth were missing. His breath stank. And he just came up to her and offered her some money and thought he could just take advantage of her, just for the simple fact that this is Africa or Kenya or Nanyuki. I don't know what it was, or just the reputation of the town. Now, another thing too that I've seen in this town when the British soldiers did come in, you know, like the British soldiers just came in like a couple days after what I just seen. So what I'm saying here is that one night me and my wife were walking home, and then there was nothing but prostitutes, it seemed like, all over. And this was probably like 7 at night. It was already dark. And the rumor is when the British are getting ready to come, there's an all out bulletin across the country that all prostitutes who can afford to come to Nanyuki will come. So I was listening in to a conversation that me and my wife were passing by, that this one prostitute says, yeah, all the rooms are filled. We got them all. Talking about prostitutes, we got them all. So all the hotel rooms are basically filled so they can reserve them for their clients, being British soldiers or whoever. So like from the day before to that night, Nanyuki had its regular normal people that you see every day, they're citizens that you see on a day-to-day basis, to strangers that you never seen before from all over Kenya. And it was just full of prostitutes. This is something I've never seen before. So prostitution, yes, definitely is a problem. But here's the thing. A lot of women in that town will be considered a prostitute on site, if they're especially if they're not with the man, on site, for the simple fact that that town is known for prostitutes to come from Mombasa, Nairobi, and other places. Because in the town of Nanyuki, there's not that many prostitutes that actually live there. There are very few in number. So most of the prostitutes that come there are from other places of Kenya because of the soldiers. And then when the soldiers leave until they come back, those prostitutes leave. And that's the reality of it. So these are some things that I've seen in that town that just widen my eyes that I just never seen before anywhere else. And it's crazy. Kayla.
Yeah, actually, this incident is actually not isolated to Nyanyuki alone. We also have these cases in Mombasa, Malindi, Watamu, Diani, uh, Kilifi, also town. We have such of these cases happening. Uh, it's really sad. Like the law says something else, but on the ground people do other stuff.
Yeah, and that's true. I know the Mombasa situation. It's overwhelming, and but at the same time, with the people that are doing the crackdowns on prostitution, they're not doing enough. And we know a lot of the reasons would be due to corruption, and then a lot of reasons that some people just don't care that are in law enforcement. And that's unfortunately that's crippling a lot of families that use this as a revenue income, because it's prostitution never has a positive outlook anywhere in the world, even in the locations, some countries where it's actually legal. It's just a negative situation for the people that are involved and their extended family, whether it be from their children to their aunts, their uncles, cousins, and stuff like that. It's a negative impact on the environment. The other thing too, I grew up around, I grew up in Orange County, California, and Orange County is where Disneyland is. A lot of people think Disneyland's in Los Angeles. It's not. It's in the city of Anaheim in Orange County. And before the quote unquote Italian mob took over Disneyland many years ago, which is now, I'm not going to say the name of the company that owns Disney. When they took over, before that, there used to be prostitutes all over, up and down, I think it's Bristol Avenue. I don't remember. Yeah, Bristol, and I forgot the main cross street, Westminster, whatever. There used to be prostitutes everywhere, 24/7. And this is a place where you bring your family, kids. And kids used to look at the prostitutes at the Anaheim Convention Center, which is right across the street from Disneyland Hotel, where the parking lot is. Well, the parking lot, there's no place for them to really stand. So they stand on the convention side. They get close to the Disneyland Hotel, which is another side street, which has the monorail train that goes from Disneyland to the hotel. And then they have other places, gas stations and stuff, or petrol stations and stuff. Well, when the mob took over, all those prostitutes were gone almost like overnight. And we can wonder why that happened. But before that, they used to be everywhere. So presentation is everything, depending on who owns something or who takes something very serious. So this is a problem. Prostitution has no positive impact. And in that neighborhood of Anaheim, um, it was pretty bad for the people that lived there, because around that convention center and around Disneyland, it was nothing but houses and apartments. And so a lot of kids live there, and they had to see that, and there's things that happened where people that didn't want to be involved at times had to be involved, that caused trouble. So the situation of prostitution is never a positive thing anywhere in the world, and this is going to continue. But the thing is that no matter where it is in the world, no prostitute deserves to die because of something like this. Should they be jailed for what they do? In some cases, yes. And a lot of others just need divine intervention. They need job training. They need other things to happen so they can get out of that lifestyle, because a lot of them feel worthless and they just don't know what to do. And in a place like Kenya, where the main problem is there's not enough jobs, you basically have to create your own job. That's the main problem. Because if women had a source of income, and then some men as well, that pick up this line of this so-called work, they just go to it because it's like an easy thing to do, but it's not really easy if you think about it. But in order to do it, you got to have a strong stomach to do it, right? But if they had a different alternative, prostitution would be way down. Prostitution would be way, way down for sure. Kayla, your audio.
Oh, sorry. I don't know. I
Okay.
think so. Public education of this awareness of activities is the best way to go forward, and you guys are doing a great job. Yes, I think in terms of putting the information out there is actually very much important. But I also think that we need to come to a point whereby looking for a job or finding ways of making money is not something that is hard, that people could actually get jobs so that they will not even be thinking about, because most of them, if there's some videos actually they did in Nairobi, and the prostitute women could actually say that they are actually not having the job, they were just put there because of the troubles that they were passing through. Most of them had they're single women, and this was their only resort to get money. So most of them are not actually happy. So it shows you one thing, that there's lack of actually job uh, among this kind of community, this kind of people that are actually involving themselves with the prostitution. And actually, I don't know if you know, Mombasa has a worst kind of prostitution. It has gone to a place whereby it's a very sad story, by the way, whereby a husband will actually offer the wife for to be a husband of somebody. Now it's way apart. This is different from, it's some opposition, but it's a little bit way different. So the man will actually go to the beach and find a man, and the man will be telling him, "I'm looking for somebody to marry." And instead of getting somebody who is single, he will actually say, "Okay, let me give my wife out so that we will benefit." And the stories that will come out from that kind of arrangement, trust me, it's so sick that this is somebody who's looking away of easily going to to the Western world. So the wife goes ahead, and later the man comes in and is being given the documentation too to also travel. It's a very sick story. It's, if you watch it, it's really actually sick, and mostly you know how it ends. The woman gets married and she never comes back, and the man will be crying on the internet that, oh, my wife was taken, and the man will be like, but when I married her, she was not your wife. So also, I think there's something the government is doing, or the people who are actually doing this. Maybe they're not officially married, or if they're officially married, I don't know if they did a divorce or something. But it's actually very sick what they're doing actually. I don't know if you knew about this, Mr. Nice.
Oh yeah, I'm very aware of that. Very, very aware of that. I also know about another case that I've actually read almost 20 years ago. Is that there was a particular young boy, and this wasn't a marriage situation, but there's a particular young boy that would go to the beach quite a bit with his friends, but then would try to do some things, I guess, according to the article, without his father knowing. So his father caught wind on what happened, and this was, I believe, at the White Sands Hotel. Now, there's an older um, Caucasian guy from one of the countries. I don't know if it was Germany, Britain, or whatever. So he came to the room with the machete. He found out which room his son was in. And I don't know if he got there in time before they started, whatever. But when the man answered the door, he said, "Get my son out of the room. I'm taking him now." And he didn't attack him, but if he had to, basically, if he wouldn't have opened the door, it would have been a different situation. And when he got his son back and still didn't use the machete on the man, it's because he knew he was going to go to prison. What he wanted was his son back, and it was not something he approved. So everybody, what also happens on the coast, that what KLA just described with like the husband and wife, is that they also do this with some of their children in Mombasa. So this is a serious situation. It's a serious crime. And this is what some people come to Kenya to do specifically, because they know the vulnerables are there, and these are vulnerables. And anytime, especially if they're under 18, they are seriously vulnerables because they have no other avenue. They have no real say in society until they become an adult. And once they start from a child or teenage years, which is still a child, into adulthood, then they find it very hard in adulthood to come out of it. We have seen some cases where some people have come out of it on their own, discovered to make their own business or whatever on their own, but it's hard for a lot of them to do. The other thing too, I've had this conversation with my wife, because when we went to Mombasa on our honeymoon, I didn't like some of the things that I was seeing. So I knew most of the people that were there were not there for that, but I seen enough that I knew that they were there for that. They were there mostly to get with the prostitute women that were there, and I didn't like what I saw. So there was a conversation that me and my wife had, and we're staying next to the White Sands in another hotel called the Cyrock, and pretty much all the hotels there, they have some type of outside restaurant that's open to the beach, and there's a swimming pool. Maybe they have a swimming pool, maybe not. And so we were enjoying the breeze coming in from the ocean just with a few other people. It wasn't that crowded that night. And there were three prostitutes sitting at the table right next to us. And my wife said, "These three women are prostitutes." And I was like, "Well, how do you know that?" Because all of them were dressed normal, as we would call normal for that type of weather. They were dressed normal. And she said, "Trust me, I know." So for 4 hours, no men approached them. No men were looking at them, nothing. So all the men that were there, who were mostly from other countries, weren't even paying attention to them. till this one guy, he was definitely from America by his accent, could have been Canadian. He was about 6'5", came up to them and said, this is the only thing he said to them too. Well, not the only thing, but he said, I'll take all three of you. And we were there for 4 hours. And my eyes lit up, my ears opened up wide, and I just couldn't believe what I just heard. Like I've seen men approach prostitutes on the streets for years growing up. But the way he did, like his line, "I'll just take all three of you." No, "I'll take all three of you." I just couldn't believe it. And he said, "Just come with me to my room." They all got up and left with him. And my wife said, "See, I told you. I told you they were prostitutes." And I was like, "Well, how did you know that?" Because I know them. Know them as in this is where she's from. She knows how to spot them. The only reason why they were there sipping on whatever drinks that they were sipping on is because they were waiting for a new client to pick them up, either one of them or all three of them. And it was crazy. Me and my wife have also had conversations about women in Nanyuki, and I would have to say that most people in the world, at least America, have known family members or friends that became prostitutes. I'm no exception to that. I've had high school friends that became prostitutes later in their life. The thing is that my wife has had the same thing in Nanyuki, and or she's met people later that were prostitutes, but they were just nice people in the town of Nanyuki. And so, outside of that, she doesn't agree with what they're doing, but there's nothing that she can do. So it's like she's not trying to be an enemy of them just because they chose that line of making money. The thing is, she told me that there's been some people that she's known that have met a British guy, not necessarily a soldier, but some soldiers, and they've married them, and they were prostitutes prior to that. So that guy that they married took them out of prostitution. However, the reality is that is like 1 out of maybe 500. So the odds of that happening are very slim for these women. My wife also knows people that have never been prostitutes and have gotten married and to other men and now live in their countries like Italy and the UK. But the fact is that this happens, and with the prostitution part of things, you know, if they don't, I don't think they really think that they're going to get a husband out of this, but I think the ones that do, it's great for them because it takes them out of prostitution. But the likelihood of it happening is very, very slim, and that's another sad story, and that's another conversation for another day. Kayla.
Yeah, actually, me too. I know of people who I used to know them personally, and they got into this trade, and some of them was because of financial situation. Some of them was because of lack of jobs, and that's why I actually insist that I think somehow they ought to be, I don't know, kind of legislation that protects people who are actually finishing school and they will not be having placement for jobs. I think the government needs to improve on that because, of late, we've been having a lot of attention towards Kenya, and it's not about only these kind of situations that we are talking about crimes, but people also have been wanting to move into Kenya. So, with people wanting to move into Kenya, on that aspect that we already have citizens who are not employed, and we are bringing more people. Not necessarily they're coming to look for a job, but they're coming to find a broken society. That is something that is actually of much concern to me. I believe that if people come into the country, they ought to see the best side of us. Yes, I wouldn't say that we could be 100% better, but we should try our best and put legislations that actually work for the citizens and also will accept those ones who are coming from other countries to stay in Kenya because we have a lot of traction right now. And the sad thing is that with the people claiming that they're coming to stay here, they're also getting backlash from other people saying them, why are you going to that country? This is the country that, is it not that they have street strikes? They've gone to the protests. And the truth is that the protest is actually in around 4 streets or 5 streets in the city of Nairobi alone. It doesn't happen in the whole country. But now it shares a very bad picture. And on terms of international relationship, it also has some. weight on it. We already said we actually have a bad blood with South Sudan, Sudan, the major Sudan. They've been claiming that we are actually involved in all this, what is happening in Sudan,
Arms
and
deals,
yeah,
illegal arms
deals.
deals.
Yeah, and now they've put proof to it. They have shown that our bullets and armory was actually inside Sudan. I don't know how that went into. So there's a lot of laxities within the government institution and the administration, and they need to actually really improve because it may be a gratification for a short time, but not for a long time.
Uh,
So
yeah,
yeah,
I want to answer Auto 718's question. I also heard of stories where women were being deleted by meeting men online, and yes,
yes,
most of those women, from what I understand, from what my wife and other people are talking, they're not prostitutes. These are women looking for a good time, like one night stands themselves. Um, and a lot of them have been deleted, but it's not like the mass majority. But there's enough of concern because the MO is you first meet on Tinder or maybe some other related website, then you end up meeting at an Airbnb, and then that's where the deletion takes place. And in the cases of finding these issues, you'll find that most of these women were not the type of women that we're talking about. These are like one night stand women just looking for a good time, and that's what the guys are looking for. There are prostitutes that hover those sites, and I'm sure some of them have been prostitutes, but the ones that I've seen that have been reported when they actually give out the full names, they have not been considered those types of women being prostitutes. But there are women that mainly just probably sleep around a lot or whatever, just to have a good time, just like a lot of men do. But yeah, has been an issue, but it has calmed down. I think it's been already a year now. Ever since it's gotten a lot of heavy reports in Kenya, the people who are committing those crimes, and some of them have been caught, those types of deletions have gone way, way down. But you never know; they might pick back up in some other fashion.
yeah, because a lot of people got on the radar. They got alert. The information, the education actually was actually there, and also the government said that all Airbnb should have, security cameras checking who's coming in, who's coming out of them. Not actually inside the house, but actually outside. So there's a lot of fear into dealing with that kind of trade at the moment.
Right, because the Airbnbs would be the one person renting that Airbnb, not the second person visiting. So that second person visiting um, would be the woman. So these guys are the ones doing it. And if you look at some Airbnb profiles, they have to give the real name for their credit card, but they could probably fake that too or whatever. But most people are, they have somebody else's picture or they have no picture at all. They're not showing themselves, stuff like that. And they never leave comments like, for example, if they stayed at 100 Airbnbs, they never leave a comment like, "This was a great place to stay. I gave it 5 stars," or "I gave it 2 stars because the Wi-Fi wasn't working that well, but everything else was good." This is what happens a lot on Airbnb. It's just no different than, say, YouTube. You got a lot of people watching, and they never leave a comment, but they might really enjoy the video that they're watching, and they'll never even thumbs up, but they'll enjoy the video. I mean, I've done that many a times where I've never left a comment, never gave a thumbs up, and I absolutely enjoyed the video. So things like that, like I said, it has happened, and it's calmed way down because of all the investigations and some of the arrests. And some of the bodies, of course, have been recovered. One of the women in particular, um, she was dismembered from the head up or neck up. She was dismembered. And that's the one that really, I think was one of the ones that really made a lot of the women go to the streets and had these what do they call them, femicide protests, because that was big in Kenya like a year ago. The protests were happening all over the CBD. So all those deletions sparked those protests.
Yeah, and actually that protest is still ongoing. It's not that it's over. It's still ongoing, and I think whenever the strikes will be there, they will be enjoining with the other strikes too.
Right. So everybody, for those who are just coming in, the main focus of this particular live stream was Agnes Wanjiru. So I'd say the first half of this live stream, we're mainly concentrating on her. We don't want to forget what has happened to her, and we hope that there's going to be a somebody's going to be prosecuted, the person who's involved with the actual deletion of her life, which is a soldier allegedly who came forth in Britain, and he might be extradited to Kenya to be tried in Kenya. And if that's the case, it'll be the first of its kind between Kenya and British military history. So I don't know. Do you want to go any further on this? I think we've pretty
No, I
much
think we're done.
exhausted.
I
Okay.
think we exhausted everything. It was actually a very good topic that we brought. And actually, just to put out the education there, that and information that these are atrocities which are happening in Kenya, and we discussed to a very extensive length where we even offered solutions to mitigate this kind of problem.
Right. Okay. All
Yeah,
right. So I'd like to thank everybody coming from me, Mr. Nice from Kung Fu Fanta. Thank you, everybody who's here now and everybody who's going to watch later. And here on the KLA, we're going to have a lot more shows coming up. He's going to be doing a lot of other stuff. I'm going to be doing a lot of other stuff on my channel. And thanks again for coming in. For those who didn't know about Agnes Wanjiru, if you
you
know
know,
with the links that I left in the chat, please share those out with other people. And from this point, I'm Mr. Nice, and I say adios, and I'm out on that. Cheers.
and me too. I will just want to thank everybody who is watching today, the 22nd of this Sunday of the month of June. Thank you so much for 2525, the year 2025. We just want to thank you for those who will be watching later. You're much welcome. We'll be having more of these topics on this channel, and we'll progress and go into deeper education about various information that we're looking into. I just want to end this live today, and I will prepare another one, and maybe Mr. Nice will make join us on the panel, and we'll have a good discussion and talk about what needs to be fixed. And we need to see a better Kenya, and we need to see a better Africa. So thank you so much. Have a good day, and today is just the end of it.